Then November 6, 2011, my life changed completely. And I really thought my life was over. And boy, I just started living 8 years ago.
Everyone has a story.
Pretty crazy evening. Hustle and see the fire that has fallen.
We all take a different path and face different hurdles. I'm your host, Sarah Strackhouse, and in this show, I get to interview inspiring women who are dedicated to making change.
The world is tough, so be tough.
Welcome to the Strackhouse. Yes, welcome to our house where we can really peel back the layers and make you feel like you're not alone because someone else might have gone through something similar. Well, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Stacy. She's a Dallas-based singer-songwriter with a never-give-up attitude. She's played with people like Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Dierks Bentley, a ton more, and overall has an infectious, positive attitude. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
So I want to jump right in and talk a little bit about your music and moving to California and once you found that passion.
I think it's interesting you asked that because I think I found it at 4 years old.
Wow.
And I was raised in Oklahoma. I was born in Illinois, raised in Oklahoma, and then I moved to California. Okay. But when I moved to California, it was right out of high school. I'd only been out just a few years. And my mother came to me and goes, listen, I'm going to move to California and I'd like to take you with me. I'll pay off all your bills. And I had just been accepted to the School of School of Music at UNT.
Wow, good for you.
So I was going to UNT for violin.
That's huge.
Big deal.
Yeah.
And by the way, back then I didn't think it was a very big deal. I was just like, it was just a college, you know.
Right.
And then of course I realized later, I was like, oh my God. I got to Northern California and ended up going to college out there first. And then I went after graduating junior college, went to UC Irvine to college down there.
Great
but
school.
In the mix of that, I got out to California and needed a job and went and applied at a dance studio to be a dance teacher. While I'm going to school and teaching dance, choreographing, all this stuff. That was basically my job. I started going into the studio and kind of get my own music there. I wrote my very first song that I ever had recorded was called Millennium. But then between there, I was going into Hollywood and performing and just wherever I could get my feet wet. I mean, literally, we call it back to basics. I went literally into the basics. What do I do? How do I do this? How can I play violin for you? Can I sing for you? I did it all because I'd come from the theater world where I'd been behind the scenes, but I was fueled all the time. And I share this in my story in general, fueled for music, I think, at a young age because I did come from a very volatile home. Okay. And we didn't live in poverty. It was hidden behind the doors. And there was a lot of abuse going on physically. Wow. And so behind the scenes, music kept me alive. Yeah. So I was always fueled.
What do you mean kept you alive?
I think looking back at that that's how I could shut it all out. Right. You know, and yeah, I could shut out all the pain, or I could shut out all the activity going on around me. Right. So I literally, you know, luckily, and that's the thing my parents did give me. I had a stepdad, and it was, you know, it's the typical story. But the thing that my mom gave me is my mom was an artist too. Right. So she put me into violin. Yeah. She's a piano player and an upright bass player and a horn player. She's all the above. So she gave me that. It doesn't mean that domestic, she made the right choices, but you know, so, and I love her for it. We all grow. But it was in that 12 years of growing up that, thank God, I had the arts. Right. I had an outlet. So I always try to encourage people, if you have a dream, try to look at it as a dream, and that also you can bandage anything in your past to help other people. I was a poet as a little girl. My mom will tell you I'd write poems all the time, and I was very dark.
It's very lyrical. Very lyrical.
Yeah, so a lot of the pain. So the people that I work with, I actually pass down writing. Let's write about it.
You said your music exploded. Tell me a little bit about that.
So when I was in Hollywood, you know, I just got involved in the scene. Yeah. So I graduated from UC Irvine and ended up moving into Hollywood. So within 2 to 3 years of living there, I had built my band with a great set of guys that were already pros. And they brought me in. They're like, oh my gosh, fresh meat. I mean, I know it sounds bad, but I was like a fresh voice and fresh everything. And then I started the band together, and then we started playing clubs, and our biggest club was, we played all of them in LA, but the gig Hollywood became kind of my home.
Right.
So just within a short time, we decided as a band to go out on the road ourselves. So 3 of us in the band started booking all over the United States.
Wow.
We come back, we ended up getting a deal for my song called Damn You Look Good. So I ended up coming here to go on the radio tours all the time. And I ended up moving here a year later.
Right.
Which is at the end of 08 or 09, one of those years.
When I interviewed you last time, you said that moved kind of saved your life at the time. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in the mix of all that excitement, I was starting to drink more and use. And my drug of choice was starting to be crystal meth.
Wow.
And I like to tell that story and be honest about it because it looked glamorous to the outside and I was just miserable inside. So all this excitement that's going on, I was hanging with the wrong people.
Right.
Not the people I mentioned to you. They were the good people.
Right.
And I was hiding it from everyone, or so I thought.
Yeah.
And I moved. Once I moved, I stopped again.
Yeah.
But I did.
Great.
I did eventually pick it back up until I've been in recovery.
Yeah.
So it took about 2 years for it to kind of finally take me over and almost kill me.
Wow.
But in that move from that last time too, so we're talking about my career. Personally, I was falling apart. Through all the music stuff, I was completely there. I love what I do. I feel like I could, I was like, oh, I can breathe, and my songs are being produced, and they're going on an album, but like you asked, that move literally at the time saved me from a lot. But I think it was in so much pain and so much denial that I didn't know. So I get here, I'm doing my career becomes my 100%.
Yeah.
And then it found me eventually again. And then I got sober November 6th, 2011. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy to the day.
Day. I know.
That's amazing. I'm so excited you're
I know,
on the show on that day.
I know. I'm still freaking out about this. So.
I remember you talking about the waking up that one morning and pulling that switch and asking for help. Tell me a little bit about kind of what was going through your mind and how hard it is to ask for help.
And I had a couple singles out on the radio at the time, and I wasn't even able to really perform and go to radio tours. I just couldn't. I think depression had set in, but I was partying so much that I wasn't dealing very well.
Yeah.
Now this is when my alcohol had taken over. I'd stopped the drugs. I'd actually gotten tired of that anyway, which is funny. Yeah. I mean, it's still part of my story.
Right.
And I was in anyway, that's part of my story. But it was the answer to your question. November 5th, 2011, we had a show, the band and I got extremely, I blacked out. I don't remember much. People were calling the next day. I always tell the story that in the blackout, all I remember is kind of coming to, and I was crawling down my hallway of my house screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." And it's such out of a movie.
Yeah.
And I used to be embarrassed to tell that story, but now I've told it so many times that I'm like, no, people need to hear this.
Part of your story.
It's part of my story. All I remember is doing that. I fell asleep, and then I woke up.
Right.
And I was in bed, and I was like, what happened? Oh my God, what happened last night? And I was like, it was terrible. I was like, normal people don't think like this. Normal people don't do this. Literally went and I'd met a woman the week before with a lot of my same problems. She was beautiful. And I was just like, I want to be her, It's like, and I went on the couch and I laid there and I was just like, I got to make a phone call, and picked up the phone and I was like, I need help. And she was like, well, why don't you meet me at a meeting? And she was just visiting from Connecticut, which is crazy.
Wow.
And God, 100%. Yeah. And so I went and met with her, and it's been history ever since. I mean, I've been through a lot in recovery, but it's, if I can help anybody, it's that, I'm in a position musically and stuff like that. A lot of that drug addiction and alcoholism, people turned away from. But at the same time, I was also attracting the wrong people. And if you're attracting the wrong people, there's no advancement in your life, because there's everyone's doing this to you instead of lifting you up.
Right.
And And, you know, a lot of people that used to hang out with me or whatever, I'm sure that they watch this like me. I'd be like, are they talking about me?
Yeah.
No, you know who you are.
Yeah. But you do.
Yeah.
But
No, you really
actually.
do. You really do. You really do. But it was, I think, overall, that morning, this morning, 8 years ago, it was interesting to wake up and now sit here with you and be like, I was so ashamed of my life. And I really hadn't lost everything.
Right.
I literally, but through my life, I've had so many enablers, unfortunately, through the music world that would kind of pick me back up because I was talented enough for them to like, no, you got to do it.
Right.
I guess my point to that whole thing was that behind the scenes, my stepdad was extremely volatile. I couldn't say anything right, nothing. I mean, you know, the abuse was bad enough that, I mean, I'm just a little girl, you know, and my poor mom, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I developed these defense mechanisms that I have to work through every day to not fight all the time because that's my natural go-to.
To get defensive.
Oh, yeah. I immediately want to fight.
You were used to being that fight or flight mode.
Yep. And for me, when you're young like that and the abuse is there, you can't fly.
Right.
So what do you got to do? You got to fight. You got to come out hands up. And it's funny to talk to people now and I mean, I've got a tough side that a lot of people that knew me in my past knew and saw, and that I was not proud of. And it was meaning all that was is a scared little girl up in a corner going, "Please don't hit me, please don't hit me."
Right.
And so when someone had told me once, they're like, your story actually helped me see that, you know, that defensive little girl inside of me. This is women at work. Actually benefited me in my career for a while.
Right.
The problem with that, you can't keep fighting.
At a certain point, there's a crack.
You got a crack, and you got to stop surrounding yourself with people who pull you down. But what I would do is surround myself with people I could help, therefore enabling me to still have some control over what's going on around me. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I didn't have to deal with the pain.
Yeah. But so tell me about once you got into recovery and you're kind of working through things, you know, if people are in that point of recovery or they have questions about how to get help, what kind of advice can you give them?
I think the best advice is to go online, actually talk to another addict or alcoholic. And by the way, to me, addiction is anything.
Right.
I think we all have some kind of addiction.
We all have a vice.
Yeah. And, you know, some people here and some people here. Like me.
Right.
But it was talk to another person that has this problem and or pick up the phone, call the hotlines. Like if it's a suicide, call suicide hotline. If it's a 12-step program, call one of the 12-step programs or go online, find a meeting or a support group, if you will. But most of us know somebody in recovery nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, Steven Tyler came out full blown.
Right.
And I was so happy because it was when I first got sober in the music field, I kept it quiet.
Wow.
And
did you feel like you had to keep it quiet?
Yeah. Oh, my first year, I was like, woo, I'm sober, look at me.
Yeah.
And it ended up biting me in the butt. And there's places that stopped booking me because they're fear I'm not going to bring in alcohol. It was just, but to me, that was just God going, you don't need to play those places.
Yeah, then that's not where you need to surround yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to get rid of it. And then about 6.5 years later, you know, I was on the M2 The Rock show, and he just kept interviewing, and the truth came out. I mean, I've told my story in the support groups.
Right.
But not like this. And I was public about it. And it was the first time I went, oh, I guess I don't think I'd be sitting here with you today if I hadn't been on his show and kind of coached.
That's incredible.
You know, now I'm engaged to him.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and for those who don't know, who might not have heard, M2 The Rock is actually how I originally met you, Rachel Stacy. and M2 show is incredible as well. I'm going to make sure that there are all the links and everything in the captions. And I want to play a quick little clip of their engagement.
We pull for each other, and because I love your passion, how you work, the way that you are here is the way that you are in the real world, and your passion of singing. And you know, I want to be a part of that for the rest of my life with you. And what I mean by that is that I want to take this opportunity to propose to the woman that I love so much. And we'll work on the last name, but I just want to propose to you and ask you if you will marry me. And we have a lot of people watching this.
Oh my God.
And I want to take your hand in marriage, and we'll plan the date later. And Mama, we have a lot of people watching, and will you marry me, Rachel Stacy?
Yes. Oh my God.
But yeah, you were sitting in this chair. You were so shocked. It was so cute. I was like in the corner,
happening?
like I was shaking. I was so excited videoing you. Yeah.
What's so funny is I get to tell the story. I'm like, I go into Real News and everyone's like catering to me, and I just feel like such a rock star that day. And I was like, you guys always have.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, you always still treat me, but everyone was just over the top, and then now it made sense.
Right?
Everybody
I know.
knew.
I was like shaking. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I accidentally slip or say something? I'm gonna ruin everything. But yeah, I mean, that was such a special moment, an honor to be a part of. But you know,
and
you
I
guys,
got to meet you.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so happy you're here telling your story to those who might hear your story and say, I can relate. I need help. How do I do this? What do I do?
And it's funny you said that too, because here, and remember, everyone has their own beliefs.
Yeah.
And I have a strong belief in a higher power, which is I choose to call God. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people out there that just quit their addiction no matter what. I mean, they just quit and they're like, they don't look at it. There's some of us who need more help than others.
Sure.
If you feel like you're struggling with any kind of addiction, but mine being drugs. And, it's weird. You're like the first person I've ever said crystal meth on the show with, it's like full blown.
Right.
That word. Empty the Rock, we talked about meth or whatever, but it's I mean, that's his show. That's his premise.
Yeah.
But with you is the first kind of, interview where I've actually gotten to say that, because I had to hide it because I was just like, well, yeah, I was an addict. I was an alcoholic.
Right.
I strongly encourage people for complete abstinence from chemicals, and that's what I believe in. That's what I believe in. Doesn't mean everybody does,
right?
Because I do know some people out there that quit drinking or they quit drugs. Oh no, here, hold on, let me back up. They quit drugs,
right? And
they still drink, and they wonder why they still have the problems.
Right.
It's still an addictive behavior, and it's another chemical going in your body.
It still alters your mind.
It alters your brain. For what I've learned in my recovery, once you asked me how to ask for help, what I've learned in recovery is that I work these simple little tools called the 12 steps.
Right.
Work them with another woman who's been through those steps and learn another way to live. It's just another way to live. I'm not saying it's the way.
Right.
What I learned at the end of the day is that my brain did not function because it did not have the tools to shut it down, which means I was covering pain up through chemicals.
Wow. And
no matter what it was, I've done it with food. I've done it with shopping.
Sure.
Because that chemical builds in your head. I think with us, I love someone said this to me, like Adderall became my replacement for meth.
Okay.
But I was medically prescribed.
Okay.
But I was over.
So you felt like it was
it was legal and I was okay, but I was on
Right.
270 milligrams a day.
Ooh.
That doctor was giving me that much. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget when I got sober and they were like, you need to get off of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's beating your dopamine.
Right.
If someone's feeling like that, I think even not being able to sit still is part of our disease as well. It is a disease. Addiction is a disease. So, and when someone wants help and they're just, here's what our society does. And I'm just going to flat out say it.
Right.
I think what happens is we see commercials. Oh, I am depressed. Oh my gosh, I have all those symptoms.
Right.
I better call the doctor and get on blah, blah, blah. I find that the biggest cop out ever.
Right.
Now, there are people who need medicine. I'm not saying no.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just the first thing we think of is, oh my God, I'm depressed. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at everything. Let's find out what's really going on. And I deal with depression, so I get it. But let's look at let's find out what's going on.
Right.
And I think, there's life coaches. There's sobriety, there's church
sponsors,
there's sponsors, there's accountability people, but it's what you want inside, how you're feeling inside,
right?
And that hole that we feel is through, and I always tell women this, that hole that we feel, sometimes it looks like shopping, food, men, whatever, name it, shoes, let's say that's shopping, but this big black hole that sits in here, which is our soul.
Yeah.
And what are we filling it with? Well, if we're filling it with everything I just told you, what's left? Because that's an instant high.
Yeah.
What about when it's all gone and that hole's empty?
When you're broke, when you've eaten all the food,
Exactly. What happens afterwards? And
Sure.
sometimes that dark hole has to be filled with something, which in my experience, it's God. So many, from housewife to corporate, there's no matter, and we're talking about women here, I think that we have such a liability that this dark hole we will fill with anything to prove to everybody we can be strong women.
Yeah, it's an interesting complex.
My first sponsor in the program had like 30 years and was married for 50.
Wow.
So she was like almost like, I mean, like a grandma-ish.
Right.
Safe. Very safe. And my second one became like someone just a few years older than me.
Okay.
That wanted everything she had. She'd gotten sober at 17 and had like almost 30 years also.
Wow.
And
she was just a few years older than you.
Yeah, she was, well, like I think 10 years older than me or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she was like a big sister, and she's the woman that saved my life.
You talk about your sponsors and that relationship and kind of where you are now. Tell me how important relationships are in your life and making sure you're surrounding yourself with good people. I mean, I know M2 pretty well, and I know you're engaged to a great man who is also on an incredible journey with you, and your sponsor, you have friendships. Tell me how important those relationships are in your life.
Well, since we're talking about women right now, the women relationships in my life, developing the truest of the truest, which is no holds barred, and we tell each other the truth. I'm learning in the program.
Is that hard?
Yes, because you have to reach out and ask for help, but you also have to help. Talking to these women, it betters my life in my relationship because I'm able to see my part.
Right.
But I'm also able to validate the recovery side and go, okay, I'm on the right path.
Right.
I'm just doing the best I can. My survival skills are not very good. My survival skills are, as we discussed, painful. They're very painful.
Sure.
My family's repaired. My siblings and my mom and they're all coming to visit for Thanksgiving.
That's
and
incredible.
Be part of my recovery and come meet Michael. And that is the program. That is recovery for me because I'm the one who moved away from everyone to stay far away from the family.
Right.
And honestly, everyone's like, yeah, I don't blame you, family. I'm like, no, I was a pain.
Right.
I was a pill. And to admit that on camera to somebody.
It's hard. Yeah. Well, it's self-reflection, something that I think everyone, no matter what they're going through, has trouble admitting.
I see my mom differently now. You know, I see what she went through and the pain. Like, she just did the best she could. Like,
right.
I mean, oh my God. I mean, to be that codependent and want to love a man so much that not realizing his abuse is just killing her.
Yeah.
Because she was getting abused too. I found out later, afterwards.
Wow.
So that through that and forgiveness and just going, you know what? They are who they are, where they are anybody.
Yeah.
I get to have a great relationship. So the importance of the women relationship, see where it went? Okay, so I can be better in my relationship, but I can, oh my God, I can have a great relationship with my mom. I can
and work on that forgiveness.
Exactly.
I know that's hard for no matter what. Forgiveness is tough.
Forgiveness is very tough. It does not mean you have to go in and buy them candy every day.
Right. Because you don't forget very easily.
And it's not saying, like, I just randomly text my mom, which I never did because I'm so involved in me because I'm painful. I'm a dark artist, you know. But I would do little, like the other day I just texted her. I was like, "Hey, thinking of you. What are you doing?" I mean,
and I'm sure she loved that.
And it's so hard to explain to people when they ask how recovery works or whatever, that how it works, because I don't know how to tell you how it works.
Yeah.
I just know that I did what some other woman, the woman I told you, who saved my life by telling me the truth.
Yeah.
The repair starts with filling the hole with something other than yourself. The repair starts with, you know, oh, look what my family did to me. I could do that all day long.
Right.
And I get to work with these other women who come back with these stories, and I start to appreciate my mom a little bit more.
Yeah.
I did not grow up lack of anything. I just told you at the beginning of this interview that she gave me music.
Right.
So I'm going to complain?
Right.
She was sick too. She didn't know how to get out of a bad relationship, you know, and wow. I mean, to fast forward to sit here to get to say that to you, that's all about filling that hole with a higher power, if you will, God. Yeah. Anything you feel other than God is going to be your higher power.
If someone's watching this and they catch just a piece of it, or they're kind of doing other stuff while they're listening, and one thing sticks with them, everything else goes over their head, one thing sticks with them, what do you want that to be?
All that pain I gave you, if there was one thing I could pass down, is that any of that darkness that you're feeling, like anxiety or pain or whatever, and you feel like there's a certain thing of addiction, if you will, even if you have questions about addiction, reach out. There is hope.
Right.
I'm trying to show people, no matter what, go chase your dreams. Life's not over. And women get to a certain age and they just go, no, I'm just too old. No, you're not. No, you're not. If you listen to my lyrics as a writer, you know, I've got more music coming out. You've heard, I have a lot of angst in there. I have a lot of, each album gets a little softer, but my first album to now and some of the pain gets worse and worse, meaning through my recordings.
Yeah.
That I only hope that my music can relate to people and them understand that there's hope to get out of that pain.
Yeah. That makes me so honored that you're here talking about your story and helping other people and sharing and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I have to brag about you for a second. Is that when I came into the Into the Rock show, he had me on as guest every few weeks. Is that when, you know, like there's certain, I connect with women. I always have, but there's certain women I just like, we kind of immediately go, ah!
Yep.
And that's me and you.
You can click with,
like we just clicked right. And I love all the women I've met. I'm just saying you and I right off, we're like, oh my God, you know?
Yeah, immediately I was like, man, she is cool. And I was like, I am so excited that M2 is engaged to her. This is awesome.
But for you, like there's an energy in you that wants to help people. And I think that we start attracting that, and that the guard comes down in order to, hey, let's do this. Let's do this together. Because if you and I don't do this together, how are we supposed to help?
Right. Because
two or more gather, look what happens.
And that's exactly what I want people to take away from this. And that's why, again, I'm so honored that you're on this show, because I want people to feel like they have an outlet, like they have inspiration, like they have hope. Exactly what you're saying. You know, and we're all in this house together, all of us women, we're all working hard, we're all facing our own demons or working to push through things. And if someone can learn from your experience, learn from your words of wisdom, then that's exactly what I want people to take away.
Never thought I'd be sitting here November 6, 2019 telling people, hey, I almost died. And I had, I like to tell my story in the beginning musically because it looks really glamorous.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It looks really glamorous on the outside, but what people don't know is behind all that social media hype, some people could be dying.
Yeah.
And if I could, and I have been downed, by the way, for being so honest about my career, my drug addiction, alcoholism, but I have to no longer care about that. And if I can help other women in this house, then that's what I'm meant to do. I'm not out trying to fill beds in a rehab. No. I'm saying if you want our help, get a hold of Sarah, get a hold of me, get a hold of M2.
If people want to follow you on social media or learn more about you, where should they go?
I tell people to go Google me, but I'm on Spotify, iTunes, Vibervid, everything.
Perfect. And your website,
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. Literally Google Rachel Stacy, but I think everything's Rachel Stacy Music except for Twitter, which is the Rachel Stacy.
Okay, perfect. And I'll make sure all of that gets out.
That sounds so cheeseball, but it's like Google me.
Yeah, it'll come up. I actually have. So I was kind of looking up, all of your sites and all. No, it's all good stuff. It's all exciting news about music and
I love it.
Just everything. So I'll make sure all of that information gets out.
You're awesome.
So, thank you so much for joining.
And I hope everybody, we got to share this out and make sure everybody watches your show every week. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. I hope you leave feeling inspired. I'm so inspired. Literally got goosebumps like probably 8 times that whole thing. But thank you again for joining us. Don't forget to follow, share, like the Strackhouse on all social media platforms, and all of Rachel Stacy's information will be in the captions. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again. If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.